Welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook. You know where to find us. You know how to get us. Pride of Detroit on Twitter. I said that already. Pride of Detroit, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit. Can I say Pride of Detroit a few more times? No. I am Chris Perfett, the adequate host, at Chris Perfett on Twitter. And we are coming to you live on Twitch after an amazing weekend of drafting by the Detroit Lions. We're going to break down everything. It's been a whole weekend. I did about 10 hours between 2 days on Twitch, but I haven't seen these guys in a little bit, so we're going to get the whole band back together for this. Jeremy Reisman, fearless leader at Detroit Online, Mr. Real Journalism's himself. Hello, Jeremy.
Hello, Chris. I am so, one, relieved that the draft is just over. Two, overjoyed because this is actually my favorite part of the offseason is after, where we get to kind of diagnose and analyze all of the new presents that we have underneath the tree. So
I like it. I like events. I don't like having to sit here for months waiting for something to happen.
This is great. This is the fun part. And I've spent all my Monday diving into film, so I'm ready to talk.
You've watched how many hours of tape? How many Jaws hours of tape?
Jaws, I've watched over 15 hours of tape just on Monday alone.
500 hours of tape. You got to juice those numbers, Jeremy. You got to pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. 15 hours. What are you talking about?
Just on Monday alone. Even though
just on Monday alone, yeah. I've been watching all this tape. You know, this guy here, James Mitchell, I like him a lot. He's got a lot of good quick step. He can play outside the box. I slipped in Mel Kiper there. Brian Matthews. At Ryan_POD, the most requested man from the weekend. The most requested man who was AWOL. How's it going, Ryan?
I took a bit of advice from Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, and I was just a recluse all weekend. I hid in the shadows.
I thought you were gonna say you took advice from. Actually, I don't remember who's the football player who was like, keep your emotions off the internet, and it was like super ironic because they're always emotional on the internet.
No, but that checks
out. You talking about
Kevin
Kevin Durant?
No, I think might have been Antonio Brown or something.
I was going to say maybe the other thing was oh God, who's the coach at Arizona State now?
Football?
Herm Edwards.
Herm Edwards. Yeah. Don't press send. Thought Ryan was doing a lot of don't press send.
Trust me, there were plenty of times that my fingers got to moving, and I just decided, like, don't send that.
Don't press send. Don't press send.
Yeah.
Why was that? Why could that have possibly been?
Let's press send on this podcast.
That's right. Let's start at the top. Let's recap the entire class here. I've got some burning questions. Maybe we'll get to them this podcast, maybe next podcast. As far as overall, but we're going every pick here for the Detroit Lions. We got to start at the top. Jeremy, this draft started in a way I think we got the smell that it was coming. I didn't think it was going to be real, though. And that is the Jaguars jagged where they should have zigged instead. And they chose out of Georgia, Travon Walker, which leaves the Lions to rush in the card for Aidan Hutchinson so fast that the NFL got mad at them for going too fast. It's like, we got to pump in 5 more Marriott commercials here, guys. So yes, the Lions took Aidan Hutchinson.
Yeah, and that's actually exactly what happened last year, too. I don't know if they got in trouble this year. They got in trouble last year with Penei Sewell, but this year they showed the green room video of Aidan Hutchinson getting the call from the Lions, and in the background you can hear Travon Walker's name being announced as the pick. First overall by Roger Goodell. So yeah, they did rush the card up again, which is an interesting debate that we can have here because obviously, you know, we started draft season with the debate between Aidan Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau, and eventually we came back to it, even though it looked like Aidan Hutchinson was gone. So
and it didn't even seem like it didn't even seem like much of a debate to even think about for the Lions. They knew right away.
Yeah.
Aidan Hutchinson was available. They took Aidan Hutchinson.
And it's not all that surprising, right? Some could argue, and many do, that Kayvon has a bigger upside. He's maybe more of a pure pass rusher. Probably has more work to do on the running side. But I think that's exactly it. Like, the Lions saw a more well-rounded player, a more, you know, they talked about how they needed a day one starter, a guy who can just come right out of the box and destroy quarterbacks, and that's who Aidan Hutchinson is, and obviously we've already talked exclusively and extensively, I should say, about the culture fit. There is no question. I don't think the fact that the Lions did not draft Kayvon Thibodeau is akin to them saying we don't think he's a culture fit. That's one thing I think we need to like hammer home here. I don't think that's proof of that necessarily, because Aidan Hutchinson on his own merit deserves to be the pick here, and most people had him as the first overall prospect. So it's interesting that everything came full circle, but I don't think any of that should come. I don't think the fact that they took Hutchinson over Thibodeau should really come as much as a surprise. You can argue Trayvon was a surprise, but by the end of last week, it really didn't seem like it was much of a surprise.
And I remember the audio. I think it was maybe like the day of the draft, Jeremy, day one. If I'm not mistaken, it was on Thursday. There were like some Instagram stories of like Aidan Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau, and I think even Malik Willis, like talking about like the time that they spent with the Lions. Mm-hmm. And it was specifically like Kayvon Thibodeau was like, yeah, it was like being with my uncle at like a cookout or something.
Right. Apparently
it's the uncle that you only see once a year, because he will not be seeing Brad Holmes anytime soon. But I'll admit, I was a little bit surprised that there was such conviction with the pick in terms of they made the pick, like you said, Jeremy, like before Goodell had even announced Trayvon Walker's name to everybody else. So I think it was just surprising from that standpoint. I don't think it was surprising from the standpoint of very loud minority of people saying that, oh, you got to, spend all the clock. There might be a trade offer that comes. Come on, man. Like
for number two, no. For number two, absolutely not.
Not in this draft. Yeah. And I feel like Brad Holmes had already talked about that. And, they were open for business a long time ago. Yeah. They didn't care. They didn't care who came off the board at number one, I don't think. I think that they had a plan regardless of whether or not it was Trayvon Walker or it was Aidan Hutchinson. I think that they would have rushed the pickup regardless of who would have went number
Plus,
one.
Right. It ignores the anatomy of a trade on draft day. Like they already know if there's a market for that or not. And whether they're interested in joining it. Like we'll get to the trade up that they made, but that was made weeks in advance essentially, and they were just like, we have to just wait and see if the board falls our way. So by running up to the podium, I think they realize whatever trade market there was for that pick, if there was any, was not something they were interested in pursuing. It's not that they didn't wait long enough for something to develop. It had to have already developed for them to take a shot.
And I think just from everything we know about Hutchinson right now, like what a fit he really is in Detroit, it was really no question at the end of it too. We talked with Brett Whitefield on the draft night. He said he was the number one player on the board. Trayvon Walker might have a lot of upside. He might become a fantastic player for the Jaguars. But right now, are you talking about a contributor right now? I don't want to use the word pro ready. I think there are some deficiencies to Hutchinson's game, but like for what the Lions are running right now on defense and what they want to run on defense, everything about Hutchinson fits, be it the 3 tech, be it just how he rushes the pass rusher, how he stops the run, that he's this player that just fits what the Lions want right now and down the line. And we can talk. I don't think it's just personality. I know a lot of people are going to make it out to be about personality, especially with a guy as prolific as Brad Holmes. As Dan Campbell as the coach. And I know Hutchinson went on like a Pro Football Focus podcast like immediately after his pick, and PFF's been very aggressive about it to us. But like schematically too, just everything just works, man. Everything kind of like works really well with what the Lions want.
And what I thought is interesting is Brad Holmes, the night he drafted him, addressed, I guess this could be considered the main concern with Aidan Hutchinson, and it's his arm length. The T-Rex arms, as people like to joke about, is mostly Spartan fans like to joke about. But
it doesn't matter if you're just tackling the guy.
Well, it's not that. It's just like the way he put it is he plays with violence. Like he makes it so that he's just so explosive, so speed to power that, it does like he doesn't get locked up because he just explodes through the guy. And he does have good hands too. Like, and this is something we'll talk about with another edge rusher who has even better hands, but he's able to disengage every now and then due to his motor, due to his hands, and due to just an explosive athletic profile. And that's another thing that I think gets lost is people don't call him an athlete. They say he doesn't quite have the bend of a true edge rusher, which might it's not an elite bend to him, but he has some to it, and he's got a ton of athleticism. So I think that's a misnomer.
I think the other thing too is some teams do like go very. I mean, the whole reason Walker goes above Hutchinson in this draft is because Trent Baalke, the GM for the Jaguars, values the measurables and the combine numbers and everything more than other people. Like some teams will value those measurables and some teams value the college tape. This is something I talked with Kent about. Kent was talking about there's certain fan bases that like his RAS score. And some of them just don't, just because it's a matter of what certain teams are looking for in their scouting.
Sure.
So it's different philosophies. So I don't think the Lions ever cared about quote unquote T-Rex arms. Moving on to the second pick in the first round, I'm going to go to Ryan because I know Jeremy will fly off the handle. And I'm going to make him stew and sit on this. But Ryan, the Lions traded up. And we can talk. Let's talk about the trade value a little bit, and I'll let Jeremy get his piece here.
Can we
once you're done?
I want to hear what Ryan's experience was in the 4 minutes between the Lions trading up and making their pick, and what.
See, I wasn't even going to make this. I wasn't even going to make this about Malik Willis. I really wasn't.
But we've all. I feel like the live audience, the podcast audience, they've all been dying to know because Ryan's been relatively quiet about this, and we got to know.
All right.
First of all, let me okay.
Let me set the scene. So the Lions suddenly jump back on the clock. They trade up to 12. They trade 32, 34, and pick 66 to the Minnesota Vikings for 12 and 46. Lions are back on the clock. Ryan, what's going through your mind?
Well, I think that there's important things to cover here. First of all, for all the people who were reaching out to me in the aftermath of this, I appreciate it. And I very expertly took the high road on all of you. So I hope that you all recognize that. But anyways, for when the Lions traded up, the reason why I started immediately entering the brink of blacking out is because I thought it was actually happening. And I think that was a thought that was crossing a lot of people's minds because I don't think you trade up from 32 to 12 to take many positions outside of something like a quarterback, right? So thinking about all the quarterbacks are still on the board, there's been a little mini run on wide receivers at that point. Like Drake London had gone. Garrett
London,
Wilson
both Ohio State players. Yep.
The Saints just moved up to get Olave at 11. So I'm thinking, well, I mean, it has to be a quarterback, right? And my biggest concern was that it was going to be Kenny Pickett. And so for as much just sheer unbridled excitement that was festering inside me after I saw, because the way I knew that the Lions were moving up was because I got a notification from Tom Pelissero that said the Lions have moved up. And I'm not kidding. I very heavy breathing. I was there's no but that's my mindset, right? Is there's no way that they're not trading up for something that isn't a quarterback. But let me tell you this was by far and away the best move that Brad Holmes made during the draft. And it was his best pick too. I am 100% on board. But Jeremy, we talked about this in the Spotify green room, Spotify locker room, Spotify live app, right? I asked Eric, probably the month leading up to the season, right? I was like, is there any chance that the Lions package up 32 and 34 and move up to get a receiver? And specifically, I mentioned Jameson Williams because he fits on their timeline, right?
Yeah.
If Jameson Williams doesn't suffer that ACL injury in the national championship game, I think he is a top 5 pick.
He's probably the top pick. He's probably the top wide receiver. Real quick, I think Rich Hill model, just to give some background to it, Rich Hill model, we had some debate between Jeremy and Hamza on which model was actually being used. Lions gave up 435 points of value and gained 475 points of value, 40 points of value by making the trade with the Vikings. According to the chart, the Lions gained the equivalent of a late third rounder by doing this pick. And they move up and take, again, what Ryan said was probably like, I don't know. I think the Ohio State guy said that, and Jameson himself has said this, that if he ran at the combine, he would have run the fastest 40 time. But, he couldn't. Ever. No, yeah, he's like, ever.
So the question that I want to ask Jeremy is, first of all, set the prospect aside. Were you or were you not a fan of Brad Holmes making this trade? Not in the initial standpoint, but stepping back and looking at it and saying like, okay, this was the value of the picks that they sent away, and this was the value of the picks that they received.
In terms of the value of the trade up, I think you can't deny it was a good deal. We've seen a lot of teams make aggressive trades up in the first round and have to overpay, sometimes to the point of multiple first round picks.
There's a lot of trading up happening this year.
And I think the best way, I think the most easy on the mind way that this trade has been framed is you move up 20 spots in the first round, you move up 20 spots in the second round, and you give away 34. In reality, the move up essentially cost somewhere between pick 34 and pick 66. Somewhere in that range is what the Lions gave up to move up. And I don't know, that value is fine. That value makes sense. I think it's good value, and the fact that you were able to get good value from a divisional opponent is good. I have no problem trading with a divisional opponent. I want to put that out there. I think that's
neither did the Vikings, who immediately traded with Green Bay.
But I do think this is a huge risk. I think we can't put aside how big of a risk it is to give away a high second round pick to move up in this draft for, listen, I love the player. I love the conviction from the Lions. I love the idea that the Lions may have gotten the best wide receiver in this class. I think wide receiver is a position that you should be, it's premier enough where trading up in the first round makes some sense. But Jameson Williams has 1 year of production. He's coming off a torn ACL, and moving up in the draft is just even throwing those things aside, it's a risk. The thing that Brad Holmes keeps saying, and we should have, this was telegraphed. This whole move was telegraphed. They said all offseason they wanted to upgrade the wide receiver position. Brad Holmes told us a week before he made the trade that if there's a guy they have enough conviction on, we're going to go up and get him. And by that time, the trade was already in place. He was talking about this to us, which is a whole nother interesting thing. But conviction is what will kill you, I think, in the NFL draft in the end, because a lot of general managers have conviction on players, and a lot of times that player doesn't work out. And so it's a risk. I love the player. I love the value, and all of that helps smooth this thing over. But I'm not going to change. I'm not going to suddenly, the Lions got a new shiny package. I guess I'm a fan of trading up now. No, it's a risk.
Listen, conviction will also save your ass sometimes in the NFL. Conviction's why Bill Belichick's been able to keep building whatever the hell he keeps building.
They trade down. They trade down.
They also picked Cole. They also picked Cole Strange.
That's actually yes. Good.
That's my point. When you believe in a guy, you go and get that damn guy. My point though is this goes back to what we were just talking about with, Hutchinson, arm size and everything. I think the Lions, because Brad Holmes is a college scouting guy, he likes the college tape and he doesn't care about the measurables because Jameson Williams didn't have the measurables. He had the tape. He had the tape from college. He knew that he was going to go through this. He had the problem with the ACL, so he wasn't going to have a lot of the time, the measurables. But I bring that up because I'm looking instead at what happened with the two other picks, which I think soured some Lions fans, because who did the Vikings and then the Vikings trade 34 to the Packers? So who did 32 and 34 go to? Two guys we've been talking up all off season, two Lions fans, yeah. Lewis Seen and Christian Watson.
Right.
And Christian Watson goes to the Packers, who, again, Ken has told me, is one of those teams that just has a model very much like his own RAS. They like the measurables. They didn't care about the tape as much. They cared about the measurables. So this is kind of a philosophy difference right now between the new Lions and some of these other teams. And yeah, I think some fans are going to get caught up in what was lost. look, I don't think the Vikings, even Vikings fans would say the Vikings didn't make a very good trade here, but you can't also then expect two teams to then take that trade and then make bad picks with those trades as well. It would be funny, but it's most likely not going to happen. You were going to lose out on Lewis Seen and you were going to lose out on Christian Watson. That was the gamble the Lions took to get Jameson Williams. The other gamble they're running is when he's going to be back ready and healthy with his ACL. He says he wants to be ready by training camp.
He says
I
should. Should is the word he used.
Listen, here's the thing. The Lions don't need to rush him back. They don't.
Right.
They don't. They have no reason to rush him. They can just really tell him to be patient, make his time. Science and medicine has gone a long way. Guys are coming back faster and faster from injuries we used to think used to cripple careers, be it Achilles with Cam Akers, who came back a little too early. Tommy John, it was a killer for pitchers for a very long time in baseball. Guys, everyone gets Tommy John these days. Everyone gets Tommy John. ACL is probably going to be the same way. We'll see. We'll see what he is on a reconstructed ACL. I don't know what that is, but it was enough for the Lions to make this selection and to do it with burning quite a few picks and to do it. But I mean, look, like rather than signing, I think the other thing too is the Lions are pretty close above where they're expected to sign given on cap too. I don't know if either of you guys know what that would be like if
we don't know cap room yet.
I was just saying, like, I'm not sure the difference between signing a wide receiver at 12 versus paying both 32 and 34 together.
Right. It's significantly more, but I want to pass the buck to Ryan here because we haven't really talked about Jameson Williams as a player, and you're obviously a huge fan. So tell me what you love about Jameson, what you're excited about him being in Detroit, and what that will do.
I also love his nickname. J-Mo is awesome. J-Mo's
I was going to go, I really wanted it to be Whiskey, but clearly he's gone with J-Mo.
Yeah. Here's the thing I love about Jameson Williams, right, is that he is a bona fide take the top off the defense kind of guy.
Yeah.
And
he's a big play guy.
And this is the thing, right, is that first of all, like Chris alluded to, the Lions can be really patient with him because they have enough pieces right now. And also, hey, would it hurt to see even more of DJ Shark, who's on a 1-year deal? Like, would it really hurt to see more of what the Lions' depth at wide receiver can bring about before you bring that guy into the fold? But here's the thing, right? Is that, like I said, J-Mo is a guy who can take the top off the defense. He set the Alabama single season record and led college football with 4 touchdowns of 70 plus yards.
He posted an FBS best record, 11 touchdowns of 30 plus yards in 2021 as well. That's across the FBS.
And I feel like this is like the pick that Eric Schlitt should 100% be on board with, because the dude played 279 special team snaps and
two kickoffs returned for touchdowns last year too.
In the same game, by the way.
In the same game, yes.
And just an absolute violent gunner, right? A guy who, how did that, that shouldn't have been overlooked. Like, that should have been something that we saw and we're like, oh, okay, this guy is 100% for this culture.
Right. And that was one of the first things Brad Holmes said that night is I turned on his film and I saw him book it and destroy a guy as a gunner. And I'm like, what? He talked to Dave Burkett and he said that was a remote dropping moment. He literally dropped his remote in awe. And so, yeah, culture-wise, huge fit. I know people are concerned about his personality because he doesn't look happy. Quit it with that.
I think that's a quirk of TV. I think that was just they went to get the. It
went beyond the broadcast too, though. Like people, he didn't look excited in his press conference.
Yeah, because now everyone's doing the body language thing. You got one whiff of it, now immediately everyone wants to do the fucking same old lion shit and looks for any little bit.
But to me, obviously everyone just talks about the speed, right? I think he said he clocked in at 23.4 miles per hour at some point during last season, which is just mind-boggling fast. But I think he's also pretty polished as a route runner too.
I was going to say, this guy is not just fast, but he's got a really long catch radius. He's got long limbed. He can he's not like one of these big guys we were looking at. We were looking at, wide receivers all this offseason that were big and could like out muscle for the ball. He doesn't play that way, but he is going to go for the
Right.
jump balls just in a very different way. And I think he's one of our favorite guys too, just because like he's a yak monster.
Yeah.
He'll catch and go.
Yep. And the last thing I want to say is like, he is definitely the kind of guy that just raises the level for everyone else, right? If you take the top off the defense, well, guess what? Now you can't key in on Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know what? TJ Hawkinson, a guy who for the first half of the season felt like was the only guy that Jared Goff was comfortable throwing to. I think he might benefit more than anyone else from this draft pick, because suddenly the middle of that field is going to be wide open, because that safety is going to be booking it to try to keep pace with Jameson Williams. So again, it's all about making everyone else better and having that one guy that draws away coverage, and that's Jameson.
And taking one other defender out of the box too, right? So like this isn't just
taking some of that secondary out of the box too,
right?
Yeah.
This has like, that's what I mean though. Why I'm so excited about JMO is because he's a guy who like can change the entire offense, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not keen on the idea of trying to sell it as, the Lions got their Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill has just like speed that like nobody else has. Okay. But what JMO can do is he can take the top off that defense, and he can change the way that defenses have to scheme for the entire offense. And to Jeremy's point, like the last thing I want to say is Bill O'Brien had this to say about JMO. He said that I can't say enough about his competitiveness. He's a player that goes out and practices every day like it's a game. And like that quote alone should have, like, when I was reading Dane Brugler's The Beast, his draft guide, that should have just been something where I was like, okay, it's kind of hard to take those things in isolation. But if you would have compiled all of this stuff, like the writing was on the wall, like, and that's what's most shocking to me is 3 wide receivers go before Jameson Williams, right? Like he is the number 1 wide receiver clearly on the Lions board.
Yeah. It just, again, like other teams didn't want to take the gamble on the ACL. The Lions did. It's part of the gamble that Brad Holmes is going to have to answer for, but you got to make the gambles at some point. You can't be like just scared and just worried about stuff not working out for you. Real quick, we got 2 seconds here. What does it mean for the rest of the roster, Jeremy? Because I feel like Quintez Cephas might be on the outs because Raymond's locked up, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Shark, Reynolds, Jameson Williams. Someone's got to go from this lock from the.
Yeah, it's tough. I did a 53-man roster position this morning, and it's up on Pride of Detroit. I did have Quintez Cephas in, but that's keeping 6, and they might not keep 6. To me, I think Quintez Cephas deserves an opportunity after how he started to play right before he separated his shoulder or broke his collarbone or whatever it was. But he also wasn't drafted by this regime, and he's not kind of the speedy type that they like. Maybe. And
they have Raymond and Amon-Ra who can do pretty much everything they need from him.
But you do need depth. He has a little bit of special teams experience from 2020, but not last year. So he's probably going to have to bump that up a little bit to land him a roster spot.
We'll talk more on the roster. Yeah, Trinity's probably done. We'll talk more on the roster in the coming weeks. Obviously, we've got a lot of time now. We're staring down the barrel of 3 months again of a very long off season. Coming up next, we move into day 2 and what that brings. We'll move a little brisker here as we start to talk about, have we decided, is it Pascal or Pascal?
You'll find out after this break.
Jesus. Yeah. Leaving that on me. All right. We'll be right back in the Pride of Detroit POD cast.